Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to As I Sit Writing Here. This is a very interesting little poem, especially when to follow the one that we just worked with font type. Here now we have Whitman as aging poet, as aging writer. This is poem number 8 of the 58 of Sands at 70. Now our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist. Everything from inscriptions up to and including a set of introductory comments to Sands at 70. And as we just mentioned, we just finished with a font of type. Here we'll have back-to-back 2 poems about writing. Only this one is a little bit different. Here we're not concentrating on the font, we're concentrating rather on the power of lost ability. And we'll get into it here in a moment. This poem was first published, our Nortons will tell us, in the New York Herald. We've seen a number that were published in this Annex 1 there. In the New York Herald, May 14th, 1888. Now we're going to make an interesting observation about the word querulties, spelled by Whitman in the second line. It actually is misspelled. It should be spelled as Querulities. The error, interestingly, appeared both in the Herald as well as in the November Boughs. And because that's the case, often it's just redeemed this way, even though it's actually a misspelling of that word. Let's play the game here really quickly with this 4-line offering. As I sit writing here, notice the immediacy of here. As I sit writing here, sick and grown old, not my least burden is that dullness of the years, querulties, ungracious glooms, aches, lethargy, constipation, whimpering ennui, may filter in my daily songs. Now some readers of Leaves of Grass say this may be the most pathetic set of 4 lines in all of Leaves of Grass, because it's almost as if Whitman, promising in so long that he was going to step out from behind the screen, he actually does it. And what is it that he shows us? Well, man, it's a lot of painful observations about what it's like as a dynamic poet to grow old. And then as he's growing old, to kind of sit there and try and figure out how he's going to create some piece of writing when he really doesn't have the best of energy in front of him. Notice, he's sick, he's grown old. Here we are back to Prayer of Columbus, no question. Not my least burden. In other words, I got a lot of burdens, but not the least of it is this dullness, only time it gets used in Leaves of Grass, of the years, sitting after his paralyzed stroke of 72 and then on to 73. It's hard on him, right? He's not so active. Querulties is only used one time, the misspelled word. Of course, querulous. In other words, he's always frustrated, right? Ungracious glooms. Notice the repetition of the G sound. Aches. Anyone that, of course, has gone through all that he has gone through, aching. Lethargy, fatigue. He mentions constipation. He mentions whimpering ennui. You'll remember ennui from Song of Joys. Boredom, right? Boredom. Right? Whimpering is an interesting word for him. That all of this, he hopes, may somehow filter in my daily songs. You will remember at the conclusion of Song of Myself, too, he uses this filter for yourself. And then, of course, the emphasis of daily songs. Well, I think at 2A what we're saying here is that it is hard for great artists to begin to lose their edge and to know that they're losing their edge. Whitman certainly knew it. When we look at this first annex, let's say it out loud. These are great poems, of course. And Harold Bloom is right. There's a whole lot of Leaves of Grass which probably should just have been fully edited out. However, I do take a little bit of umbrage with Bloom in this regard. This shows us all of the man, Walt Whitman. And I love that about the annexes of 1 and 2. It shows us in poems like this that in the end it wasn't easy for him. It was not. Here is the poet who wrote those amazing 52 offerings from Song of Myself. And now, not so much. Lethargic. Ennui. Where do I come up with new ideas? What has that got to be like? It's got to be rough, obviously. At 2B, notice the immediacy of these lines. Whitman is letting us in, if you will, and I love that. At 3A, there's so many places we could go. I'm thinking right now about Love Song of Jalford, Prufrock, T.S. Eliot's classic. I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. In other words, as we get older, there's less, Whitman seems to suggest here, there's less dynamism, there's more lethargy. finally at 3B, what do you think will be the hardest thing? I mean, you guys are young now, but what do you think will be the hardest thing about growing old? Will it maybe be the ennui? And who knows, maybe when you're old, you'll enjoy reading Whitman's Leaves of Grass in a completely different way. It's possible. Thank you.